Let's keep it coming. I'm Arachi from UK. It's good to have you. You're highly welcomed. Ivy from Ghana. We have Ivy in the house. You are highly welcomed as well. Onyeka from Onitsha. So it's really good to have you join us. We have Rebecca from the United States. We have Olubumi from UK. All right. So it's actually one of the very good things about this sessions like this, right? You get to be in the same space as people from different parts of the world, right? You get to connect and meet people from all over the world. So if you're likewise just joining us for the first time, please leave a one in the chat. Let's welcome you properly into Analytics, right? So if you're joining us for the very first time, kindly leave a one in the chat. I'll be here to welcome you, right? So let's see the responses, all right? So if you're joining the Analytics 8 Analytics Masterclass or the HR Analytics Masterclass for the first time, please leave a one in the chat. Let's meet the newbies in the house. Olubumi, you are highly welcome. Kunle Amzat, you are highly welcome. All right, so Feta, you're welcome. So let's keep it coming. iPhone, I really didn't get the name, but that should be Amarachi if I'm not mistaken. You're highly welcome. All right, so let's get right into it, right? So good evening, everybody, once again. My name is Priscilla, like I mentioned earlier, and I'll be hosting the session today, right? So this is the first edition of our HR Analytics Masterclass, and this is brought to you by Analytics, right? So I'll be doing a brief intro of Analytics as well as what we'll be doing today. So I'll share my screen now, and if you can, if when you can see my screen, you could just leave a yes in the chat, all right? So I'll share my screen right away. So if you can see my screen, please leave a one in the chat. If you can see my screen, please leave a one. All right, so thank you very much, yeah. So let's get started, right? What's Analytics, right? What do we do at Analytics? This session, this free practical masterclass is brought to you by Analytics, but then what's Analytics and what do they do? Just before we delve into what we do at Analytics, right? Today's masterclass, you'll be learning how to optimize recruitment strategies using data. So if you know anybody that should be here, if you know an employer, if you know an employee, if you know an HR personnel, if you know anybody that is interested in HR analytics, just quickly send the link to this masterclass to the person and they should join in ASAP because you'll be learning how to optimize recruitment strategies using data. How can you use data to employ people that would actually do the work, people that are fit for positions and roles in your organization, right? And then as a person, how can you fit into the requirement, right, for certain roles, all right? So let's delve into who we are at Analytics, right? So at Analytics, we're an edtech company. And if you don't know what edtech companies are usually educational technology companies, and they help bring education closer. You don't have to go to a physical location anymore, right, to get schooled or get educated. They help bring education closer to everybody. So we're an edtech company, and we help Africans and people of the Black community learn premium tech skills by lowering the entry barrier into tech. So you don't get to do all of those endless Google searches, all of those endless YouTube videos, all right? So we help Africans majorly and people of the Black community learn premium tech skills by lowering the entry barrier into tech, right? So our service offerings are aimed at building capacity and understanding across different tech roles, right? Which includes data analytics, business analysis, HR analytics, financial analytics, and then a lot more, right? So we major in the entire data ecosystem, right? And then this is just to enable our clients achieve data-driven decision. So you're not just learning for just learning sake, right? You're learning how to help organizations achieve data-driven decision, right? So we're able to do this by getting top facilitators that key into our visions and goals, right? So we have facilitators from diverse sectors and reputable organizations such as Apple, Microsoft, McKinsey and Company, Coca-Cola, KPMG, and the likes, right? And also, our courses are structured in a way that makes it practical, right? So you're not just learning like theory, right? So you're getting hands-on experience. Let me put it that way, right? You're getting hands-on experience. You're learning practical case study, right? And then this is just so that you get optimal value for what we do. So right before we get started into today's session, our facilitator for today is no other but the founder of Analytics. If you are joined in earlier, you must have seen that I was playing a video, right? And that was the founder of Analytics, Adeza Suleiman. And then he will be our facilitator for today. So who is Adeza Suleiman? He's a data analytics expert with close to a decade experience in data analytics and management consulting. So he has worked in sports, he has worked in professional services, edtech, energy, and automobile sectors. And he has also personally trained over 8,500 participants. So I'm very, very confident, and it is safe to say that you are in good hands today. So if you've got your notepad and you've got your pen, just pick them up, right? Try to note a thing or two. So we have Adeza up already here. Hi, Adeza. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Priscilla. Thanks for that beautiful introduction.
It's a
How you
pleasure
doing
to
today?
have you always. Very well, thank you.
All right. Thanks very much, Priscilla, and good evening, everybody. Good to be in your midst this evening. Priscilla said, thank God it's Friday. Yeah, thank God it's Friday. So today's session would be a very interesting one. All right. And that's because I'll work with all of you. I would like to get your own feedback and would come up with the solutions together. I won't do it alone. We want to optimize recruitment strategies. And that's why it's very important. Priscilla said something that is very, very important, which is leveraging data to take decisions. All right. But data is useless. Just like the crude oil you get from the ground, totally useless until you can refine that data, analyze the data to extract insights from the data, similar to how you extract petroleum and other petroleum products from crude oil. Okay, so we have data today and would do a little bit of work on the data to extract some insights that would help us answer some questions. And the answers to those questions would come from everybody, not just me. Okay, so I'd love you to participate when I call you up or ask for your own suggestions and feedback. Okay, so I'll go ahead and share my slides and then let's kick off with the main meat of our session today. Okay, so what are we doing? Today, we are looking at talent sourcing analytics. All right, and today's session would be, I would say, give or take, we take about an hour and a half or possibly less. So within the next 1 hour, we'll look at a data set and see how we can start to use data analytic tools. And we're going to touch on Excel today. How can we use Excel to answer key questions that a particular company has? All right. And just to walk us through very quickly how our session would look like today. Just give me 1 second. I need to mute everybody so we don't have distractions. Okay. So first of all, like I said, we'd have the practical case study. Practical where we will use a live data set to answer key questions. That's the first thing we'll do. And then we'll move on to understanding how to get a job as a HR analytics professional. Okay. I would start from the skills because that's where a lot of people struggle. They don't know what to learn. They don't know how to start, how to progress from there, and eventually applying to get a job. And I'll share some tips and tricks with you today, especially during the job application process. We have so many people from different diverse regions across the globe joining us today. We're expecting a lot more to join. And that's the beauty of remote learning, like Priscilla also alluded to. Okay, once we move on from how to get a job as a HR professional, we'll then move to the upcoming programs that we have starting in February and the amazing discounts we have for you, for everybody who would stay till the end of today's session. Now, as the session goes on today, Priscilla, who is coordinating our session, will drop in the attendance form. And I'll tell you the importance of the attendance form. At the end of the session, we'll share the recording, we'll share the slides, we'll share the data sets, and all the materials we'll use today. So if you want to receive those materials, ensure that you fill the attendance form. Okay, thank you very much, Onyeka. All right, let's move on. So we'll go straight to it. Like I mentioned today, straight to business. I'll get the data set, show you how to get it as well. For those who would want to work with this same data set. If you want to work with me now, I'm going to share the data with you, okay? But if you want to do this later at your own convenience, it's also fantastic for you to do that. So I've kept the link to the data set so that you all have access to these data. So all you have to do is come here, click on the link, and then you have access to the data set. But what I'll do is I'll copy the link and I'll share it in the chat for those who would like to work with me as the session progresses. Okay, so I'll copy the link. I'll share it in the chat. But like I said, it's usually best for you to take out time, watch what I'm doing, listen to me, let's interact, let's solve the problems together, send messages, drop comments in the chat, and would also have the opportunity where you unmute yourself and speak, okay? And then at the end of the session, you can then try to replicate the same things I'll be showing you, okay? So I'll drop the link to the data sets, and I'll drop the link. So you have the attendance form. Don't forget about that. You can copy the link to the attendance form. And also I'll be sharing the data set now. So you'd see the data set, okay? It's in a OneDrive, but I'll show you how to access these data sets. So all you have to do, if you copy the link and paste in your browser, or you simply click on the link that you have on the slide. So if I click on this link, for example, okay, just give me 1 second. I'll click on the link. Okay, so it opens up into my browser and shows me the overview of the data and what the data looks like. So we can see that we have a data set that has the employee IDs, the source of hire, which means where the employees were recruited from. So we recruit from different channels and different pipelines. Sometimes you post the adverts on your job, on your company's website. Sometimes you post it on job boards and across different channels. So you have the source of hire, where each employee came from. All right, so you have the source of hire, you have the date of hire, you have the position or the role. Is it a software engineering role? Is it an accounting role or an accountant? Is it a HR manager, a project manager, and so on and so forth? You have the department, you have the performance score. Now, remember, the main focus for us working with this data is to do what? We want to answer key questions, okay, based on the channels where employees came from. Because once you have an idea where you recruited somebody from and you have data on those different areas, and that's why, like I mentioned earlier, having data is important, but the data becomes useless if you don't know how to use that data. So you start to create a strategy for gathering data for every single process or processes that goes on within the HR department. So talent sourcing, for example, you capture data, but how do you then use the data? So we have data today and we'll see 1 or 2 things we can do with this data, okay? So you have number of training programs attended, employee satisfaction score, and so on and so forth, educational background, the alma mater, that's the university that employee graduated from, okay? You have previous employer, that if you recruited that employee, that the employee has experience working in other companies, the previous employer, you have that data as well. And you get this from the forms that employees would fill when applying to a job. Okay, so you have all the details. Where have you worked before? They share their CV with you. Sometimes you create that form that gathers the data from the employees where they don't have to submit a paper CV or upload a CV. All they have to do is fill in that form, and you're able to capture their previous years of experience, which would include all the details that you need from those employees. Okay, so this is what the data looks like, pretty much. But how do you get the data into your computer? All you need to do is go to File. It's a two-step process. So once you click on the link and it brings you here, go to File, click on File. Okay, go to Save As. You want to save this on your computer, so click on Save As. And then you click on Download a Copy. Download a copy. Click on that, and that downloads the Excel file into your computer. And that's all. Okay, that's all you need to do. All right. Okay. Yisao is asking for the data sets. Priscilla just dropped it again. So click on the link. It takes you here. Click on File, click on Save As, and download. Straightforward step, and then you have this in your computer. Now, if I download, it goes to my downloads folder. So for me to access this folder, all I have to do is go to my downloads. All right. So I open my File Explorer, I go to Downloads, and then I can see the file. Okay, so you can see that talent sourcing. I'm going to double click on it so that it opens up in Excel, and everybody can do this as well. Okay, you can work with this data set in Excel. All you have to do is download the data set. Download the data set. I have a filter here. Just give me 1 second. So of course, when you download, you see enable editing. We're going to click on that so that we can work with the data itself. Okay. All right. I have a filter. Yeah, I'm going to clear this filter from here. So it's also important, and I'll make this change. I'll make the change. I think when I was uploading the data set, I left a filter, and you can see that here. It shows that this particular colon has been filtered. Okay, so I'm going to remove the filter from there. Click on this clear filter. Okay, click on the drop down, and I clicked on what? Clear filter. Okay, so but I'll make the change back end so that when you're downloading, you have the actual data without the filter. All right, now what do we want to do? We have the data set, and this is Excel, and we're going to work with Excel today. But what questions do we want to ask? And this forms a very critical part of being a HR analyst. You don't need to have done HR before to get a job as a HR analyst, because all the things you would learn in the program, you'd learn all the HR analytics bit of things, the HR value chain, and the HR concept and fundamentals. And then you'd learn how to use data analytic tools in addition to those HR functional areas. Okay, so you'd ask questions around what are the important factors that can help us determine where the best employees come from. And if you take 10 minutes to look through this data, you have performance records, okay, from 0 to 10, 0 meaning that the employee was an absolute disaster, and 10 meaning that the employee performed phenomenally well. Okay, so you have the performance score. You know where the employees came from, and you have so many other data points: the previous employer, the alma mater, the position and the role for that employee, when the employee was hired, the department, and so on and so forth. You have the tenure, how long the employee has stayed in the organization. So you have all these data points. Now coming up with questions to ask the data, because there's a saying that the more you ask the data, the more questions you get, the more answers you get. All right. And the more you torture the data, the more the data would confess. So, and this is time for us to torture the data. Okay. So what questions? So it's like those movies you watch, you see the, the FBI and the CIA questioning and interrogating a presumed criminal. And they ask those very difficult questions to the extent that so it goes as far as torturing those criminals. So how do we also ask questions in a way that the data starts to confess and tell us what we would like to see to help us take decisions going forward? So we have a couple of questions in the slide, and we'll just go to the slide. to look at the case study, the scenario, and then we'll work with the questions that we have. And remember, we're going to do this together, okay? Now, the case study is for a company called Teron Corporations. Teron Corp, all right? So Teron Corporation is a leading technology company and currently faces challenges in its talent acquisition strategies. Now, while the employee has a diverse pool of employees, the leadership wants to know which recruitment channels and background yields the best talent. Any employer, any manager would want to know where I can get the best talents to help us achieve our goals and objectives as a business. Okay, so as HR, you have been gathering all this data. Employees leave, you have exit interviews, you gather data from employees, you have your engagement, your employee engagement surveys. Some of you deploy these surveys quarterly, some biannually. You deploy these employee engagement surveys. You take the pulse of the employees to see where they are, how engaged, how satisfied they are with the different policies, and so on and so forth. But the question is, what do you do with the data that you have gathered? And this is where HR starts to move from the conventional HR to a more strategic HR that sits on the table in shaping the direction of the company. All right. So this is where HR starts to move from being a cost center to HR that also sets the tone of how the company would achieve its strategic objectives by providing recommendations that meets the employees at their point of need. Okay, so this company wants to solve this problem, know where to get the best talents, also understand the backgrounds of these talents so that rather than looking everywhere, we can tailor our search or narrow our search, especially for specific roles. Remember, this is a technology company. So where do we get our best talents from? So the first insight we want to consider, or the first question we want to ask is, which source of hire produces the best performing employees? That's the first question. All right. So I have my talent sourcing data. I have my performance management system. I can get the data from there. I can combine the two using the employee ID or the staff number. I can combine the two and find out from wherever I got these employees from, can I compare their performance and see where we got the best employees from eventually. And that's what question one wants us to answer. And once we find out the source, where we got the best employee, we also want to find out the position or the job role that came from that channel. So we identify the channel. That's the first thing, the source of hire. We identify. Once we've done that, we also want to know which particular role came from that channel. So if I'm going to recruit for those specific roles, I want to target those channels or target that particular channel for specific job roles. All right, that's the very first question. Second question is, which university produces the best performing employees? All right. Number three, determine the previous employers that tend to perform better. Okay, so looking at their previous employer, you want to also find out the performance based on previous employers. So your best talents come from PwC, or your best talents come from KPMG or from Microsoft. You want to know so that perhaps you can just poach talent from that company. Don't tell anybody I told you, but you can just poach from there and get the very best talent eventually. And lastly, we're going to see which source of hire produces the most loyal employees. Okay, so of course, loyalty is also very important in terms of how long employees stay with you. And of course, remember that it's not just a straight jacket answer. Sometimes so many other variables could also play in how long an employee would stay in an organization. So we have these 4 questions, and we're going to answer them not using any complex tool. We'll use a simple tool as Excel. But I keep on telling people, Excel is simple, but yet one of the most powerful data analytic tools you would ever get to use. All right, so let's get cracking and let's start answering this question. So the first question is the source of hire that produces the best employees. And then we want to know the specific role from that particular source. So let's get into Excel. I have opened my data set. All right, I've opened my data set and I can see all the columns, employee ID, my source of hire, date of hire, position or role. But then this is a whole lot. I can scroll down and I can see that I have so many, so much data here. And because of this, it's difficult to look and make a decision. I need to find a way to bring everything together, to summarize. And summarizing data means that you do something. And what is that thing? It means that you use a tool called the pivot table. Okay, so we're going to use a tool today called the pivot table. Pivot. The pivot table. The pivot table is a very powerful tool. Very, very powerful tool. So we're going to use the pivot table to help us summarize our data, and you'd see how easy it is for you to do the same. Okay, so let's use the pivot table. That's the first thing we're going to do. So I'm going to take this out. All right. For me to use the pivot table, I can do it in two ways. I can either select the entire data set, or I can simply just click anywhere, any of the cells where you have data, just click on any cell. That's all you have to do. Click anywhere around your data and then go to insert. You'd see insert at the top left corner, click on insert. And one of the first things you'd see, of course, it could vary based on the version of Excel you are using, all right? So all you have to do is follow the steps, understand what I'm saying. Is pretty straightforward. Click on insert, look for where you have pivot table, okay? And when you see your pivot table, you click on that, you can see the drop down, click on the drop down. And then you'd see different options for you to select. You want to create your pivot table from a table/range or from an external data source. We want to create our pivot table from a table/range. Our data is a range, not a table. It is a range. Okay, so I want to create my pivot table from this range of data that I have. So I'm going to click on from table/range. And the moment I do that, you'd see this dialog box pop up. And it's simply asking, do you want to create your pivot table on this particular worksheet or in a new worksheet? So you can see new, existing. You always want to create in a new worksheet. And this is one thing about being a data analyst. You have guiding principles. You want to be as tidy, and you also want your reports, your analysis to be easy to read. So if you send this to anybody or anybody picks up what you've done, they can understand without you having to explain it to them, okay? So you don't want to model things up together in one place. You want to break your analysis down into multiple parts, all right? So rather than creating your pivot table on this same data set, where you'd have the data with the pivot table all over the place, ensure that it's on new worksheet. By default, it's usually on new worksheet, and click on OK. The moment you click on OK, it takes you into your pivot table. You see your very first pivot table, and you can see mine. It says pivot table 1, all right? But I haven't done anything yet. I haven't added anything to my pivot table. I can only see that I have something that, has pivot table written on it. And at the right-hand side, you can see the pivot table fields. The pivot table fields would show you all the columns that exist on your data set. And I'll show you what I mean. Now, if you look at the pivot table fields, you'd see employee ID, source of hire, date of hire, position/role, correct? If I go back to my data set over here, look at the down left corner, click on the data set, you'd see employee ID, source of hire, date of hire, position/role, department, performance score. So this, you see all these headers, these are the headers of my columns. The pivot table takes all those headers and you see them in your pivot table field over here. And this is what you would use for your analysis. Okay, so now we're going to answer question number 1. And remember question number 1, it simply wants us to do what? To find out where do we get the best performing employees? Okay, which channel or source of hire generates the best performing employees? So we have our source of hire in here. You can see the column, one of the fields that says source of hire. Now, I'm just going to click on the tick box. And if I click on the tick box, it brings me into rows. So you can either click on the tick box or you can drag. You go to that particular field, click on it, drag it and drop, or you can simply just click on the tick box. I'm going to click on the tick box first of all, so you see what happens. So I go to source of hire and I click on the tick box. And let me expand this so you can see it better. And the moment I click on the tick box, I clicked on source of hire. What happened? You can see the different sources: campus recruitment, company websites, employee referrals, job boards, LinkedIn, recruitment agencies. So what happened? And this is the beauty of the pivot table. Now, the pivot table took this column called source of hire from my data set. If I go back to my data set very quickly, you see this column that says source of hire. You have multiple records: campus recruitment, job boards, campus recruitment, recruitment agencies. You have multiple. Some of them are repeated, duplicates, and so on and so forth, okay? What the pivot table did is to take every source of hire that I have, the unique source of hire, and it counted them, okay? So if I have campus recruitment, that is 1. Job boards is the same thing. So it picked only 1. So campus recruitment, job boards, recruitment agencies. So it just summarized. And that's what the pivot table does. It's what? Summarizes. So rather than giving us all the duplicates that exist here, it simply just summarized and gave us the exact channels where we get our talents from. And we have that here. Okay, so that's the first thing. And all we needed to do was to simply click on the tick box. Okay, but we are 50% to answering this question. The next thing we need to do is find out for campus recruitment, out of all the employees that came from campus recruitment, what is their performance score? What's the average performance score for everybody that came from campus recruitment? So we want to add performance score to this pivot table so that for campus recruitment, we can see the performance score. For company website, we can see the performance score, and so on and so forth. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'll go back to my pivot table and I would also click on performance score to select. And the moment you click on it, you'd also see it appear on your pivot table. And I'll talk about something very quickly. The moment you click on a numerical field, that is a column that contains numbers, your pivot table would sum it up. By default, the pivot table does what? Sum, which means add. It adds everything up, aggregates it by adding it up. Okay, so if you have 1, 2, 3, it would add 1 plus 2 plus 3. It's going to add everything up. So that's what it has done. So when I selected performance score, I can see sum of performance score. But I don't need the sum because the sum doesn't show me anything. What I need is the what? Average. The average. So that if one person came from campus recruitment and has a performance of 7, another person has a performance of 8, another has a performance of 10, I can tell that the average could be maybe 8.5 or something. So we have a performance score for campus recruitment of 8.5, which is close to 10. That's a very good performance. All right. So rather than having sum, we want the average instead. So how do we convert the sum to average? Very simple. All you have to do is right-click on any of these numbers. Right-click on any of the numbers, and then you'd see summarize values by. So you can summarize your values by sum, which is a default when you select a column that contains numbers. You can count, you can average, you can find the maximum, the minimum, the product. Okay, what do we want? We want the average. So I'm just going to click on average, and that's it. So rather than summing it up, it now gives me the average. So I have the average performance score. Okay, now we are 80% to completing question number 1. So the next thing is, once you've done your analysis, if you cannot visualize, you can't show people what you have done, you have not really solved any problem, because you've just created more confusion for people. But we want to create visual representations of the analysis we've done, so that anybody who looks at it can tell that, okay, this is where the source that gives us the best performance, even without knowing how you did it. All they need to do is see. So we need to create a chart out of this, which is a diagram that represents this table, but in the form of a picture, a pictorial form of this analysis we've done. Okay, so how do I do this? Very simple. Just ensure that you are clicked anywhere inside this pivot table. Okay, go to insert. Once more, want to insert a chart. Go to insert. You can select the chart you want from here. Okay, but I want to click on what? Recommended charts. So once you click on recommended, you are giving Excel the power to recommend things for you. Okay, sometimes you want to do that because you don't want any stress. And I'm going to show you how to leverage Excel to some good extent, where you don't even need to create these pivot tables yourself. Excel can do it for you. Okay, so I click on recommended charts, and it recommends the clustered column. I'm not going to change anything. I'll just click on OK. And the moment I click on OK, it gives me a chart. Now let's look at the chart. I'm going to close this so that we have more space. All right, and I'll drag this to the right-hand side. Now, first things first, there's a principle of data visualization. I can't help myself not to tell you whenever I have a session. All right, data visualization has a principle called less is more. Less is what? More. And what does less is more mean? It simply means anything that is not adding value to a visual you have created, take it out. Because the lesser elements you have in your charts, the easier it would be, or the more acceptable it would be to your audience. All right. So the principle of less is more. Any element that is not adding value to your chart, take them out. The very first thing that is not adding value are these buttons I have at the top and another one at the bottom. Average performance score, source of hire. What does it tell me? Nothing. I'm going to take it out. Right-click on it and click on what? Hide all field buttons. Hide it. I don't need it on the chart. Hide all field buttons. So that takes them out. The next thing I want to do is I need to see the performance score on each bar. You can see the columns for each channel, but I want to see the numbers on top rather than just the columns. Okay, so before I do that, I want to also reduce these decimal places. This is crazy. We have about, I think, 8 or 9 decimal places. So I want to reduce the decimal places to just 1. So it's easy to read. Remember, you're not creating all of these things for yourself. You are creating them so that you can take a decision, or you can send this to the people that would need to take a decision. Remember this. So you want to make it easy to read. Readability is absolutely important for a data analyst or a HR analyst, anybody that works with data. you want your visuals, your reports to be easy to read. So I'm going to select all the numbers I have here. Click on my home tab. Okay. And if you look at this place where you have number, look at my mouse, you'd see where my mouse is hovering, right? You'd see number. And this is where you can make formats. You can format the numbers you have on your Excel. You can convert them to percentages. You can add commas. You can increase decimal and you can decrease decimal. So I want to decrease decimal. So I'm going to click on decrease decimal until all the decimal places are gone. So I've clicked on it once, click on it again, again, until I have just one decimal place left. And now I'm okay. If you want to increase decimal, you just go to the next one that says increase. Click on it until the decimal, it gets to the decimal places or the number of decimal places that you want. So let's decrease it to 1 decimal place. When I've done this, I want to add my labels on top of each column. So I'm just going to right click on any of the columns, right click on any of the columns and click on what? Add data labels. And when you do this, it would add a data label on top of each column. All right. And this is me just telling you or teaching you how to format and make things easy. Remember the principle of less is more. So the moment I have the numbers on top of each column, I don't need this axis anymore at the left because it becomes redundant. I don't need to use my eyes to trace the lines because I have the numbers on top already. So I'm just going to click on this axis at the left-hand side and hit the backspace. So when you're typing and you want to, delete something, you just press the backspace and it deletes it. Okay. So I click on this and I hit the backspace key and it takes out the left axis. All right. I don't need these grid lines anymore because I have taken out my left axis. So I'm going to click on one grid line once, hit the backspace again, it takes it out. So my chart is becoming simple, clear, and easy to read. The legend at the right-hand side that says total what? It means nothing. It's not telling me anything. It's redundant. I click on it, hit the backspace key, and that takes it out as well. Okay. So now I'm going to title this chart. So I'll come to the title where I have total and I'll title it properly. So let's call it performance by source of hire. Simple header, performance by source of hire. So it's easy for anybody who sees this. Okay, the performance by source of hire looks at all the different sources and can definitely see the one that has the highest, performance. And to even make it easier, let's sort it in descending order, which means from the largest to the smallest. So I go back to my table, I right click on any of the numbers and I go to sort and I sort from what? Largest to smallest. Okay, and now I have something that makes sense. And I want somebody to tell us very quickly. Okay, if you want to unmute yourself or you can type it into the chat. In answering question 1, tell me which of the sources of hire or which particular channel seems to have the best performing employees. The top 2. If you want to respond, you can use the hand raised icon. I would ask you to unmute yourself and let's get to hear from you. Tell us. We've done the analysis. We've seen the channels. Which of the channels gives us the best performing employees? You can type into the chat or you can simply raise your hand and I would ask you to speak. Preferably, I'd love if somebody can speak. Okay. Someone is saying, Falake is saying, Olu Falake is saying LinkedIn. Dari says LinkedIn. Kolawole LinkedIn, Austin LinkedIn, and Campus Recruit Olufalake, absolutely. Okay, let's hear from Rebecca. Rebecca, go ahead and unmute yourself, please. Tell us.
Right, it's LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. And which channel, happens to give us the least performing?
The company website.
the company website. Absolutely. Thank you very much, Rebecca, for that. So we can see very clearly, we had data at the beginning. This is the data set. Okay, we really can't tell anything from here. It means nothing. It is useless until we can transform the data to look like this. It becomes clear where we get our best performing employees, LinkedIn. Okay, but now we're not going to stop here. Okay, we want to also find out, since we can see, or we have seen that LinkedIn appears to give us the best performing employees, can I check the role or the position that comes from LinkedIn? Okay, so if I'm going to recruit from LinkedIn or focus on recruiting from LinkedIn, for which particular roles? Is it from all the roles? Is it for all the roles, all the positions, or for specific roles? Okay, so we can do it in two ways, but I'm going to do it in the easier way because I'm looking at time. Okay, so let's take this out first of all. So what I'll do is, I don't want to see all the other channels. My focus now is on LinkedIn, right? So I'm just going to go to my table and I'll filter, click on the drop down, and I'll filter for only LinkedIn. So I'll deselect everything and select only LinkedIn. And then I'll click on OK. All right. So it gives me only LinkedIn. I no longer have all the other channels. I have just LinkedIn. Now, once I've done this, I go back to my pivot table and I need to bring back my pivot table fields because I want to then see the position or roles. So I want to add that to my table. But remember, I closed the field because I needed more space at the right-hand side. So let's bring back the field. And how do you do that? Very simple. Just make sure you click on your pivot table at the top of your Excel where you have the Excel ribbon. Go to pivot table analyze. You'd see that. You can see my mouse hovering on pivot table analyze. If you don't click on your pivot table, you would not see pivot table analyze. And let me show you. If I click outside, the pivot table analyze disappears. But if I click on within the pivot table, anywhere inside or on the pivot table, you would see the pivot table analyze. Click on that. And at the extreme right-hand side, okay, you'd see the field list. And that is what I want to bring up. So I'll click on the field list and it gives me this particular list that I closed earlier. Okay, now I want to add the position or role. So I'm going to look for the position or role. And this time around, rather than just clicking, I'm going to drag it and drop it under source of hire. So I can see the source of hire, and then I can further drill down to see the roles from this particular source of hire. So I'll go to position/role, click on it and drag with my mouse, and I'll drop it under source of hire. And the moment I do that, let's close it again so we can see the right-hand side, okay? So you can see that the chart changed the moment I did that. Now, what I want to do next is, let's sort it from in descending order again, from the largest to the smallest, so that it makes sense to us. So we can see all the roles that we hired from LinkedIn: accountant, content writer, data scientist, database administrator, and so on. Okay, so I'm just going to right click on one of the numbers and I'll go to sort, just like we did earlier, and sort from largest to smallest. And when we do this, it rearranges our charts. And now we can see that, if I want to recruit from LinkedIn, I would rather focus on specific roles and not just all the roles. For example, I don't want to hire a software engineer from LinkedIn. You can see that clearly. Okay, I don't want to hire a software engineer from LinkedIn. I don't want to hire a data scientist, an accountant from LinkedIn. Okay, we can see the performance of the project manager. We've seemed to have gotten, very good performance from people, from project managers that came from LinkedIn. And you can also see these particular roles: the marketing manager, the content writer, and the QA engineer. So I would rather focus on these roles and I would ignore the roles where we don't have employees performing so well. So our analysis becomes a lot clearer because we can represent it in a graphical format in a chart. We have summarized the data using a pivot table, and we have also created a chart to show us where our talents are coming from. So this is question 1, done and dusted. So when you're coming up with recommendations, it's not just based on your experience. Yes, if you have experience as a HR professional, fantastic. But most of the time, for somebody who has worked with data for about a decade, I'll tell you for a fact, your assumptions or what you think is usually different from what the data says. Most of the time. What you think, your assumptions are totally different from what the data says. And that's why you must always take data-driven decisions. If you're going to reshape your talent strategy, you want to come up with new initiatives, work with data to drive that, because that would help you, solve and get the strategies going, and also ensure that as a company, you are able to grow and meet your growth objectives, because you'll be doing the right things, hiring the right talents, and they stay for longer. They are more satisfied because you are meeting them at the point of need. So that's the point of their need or their pain point at that particular point in time. So that's question number 1, done and dusted. I'll show you how you can do this a lot faster. Okay. 7.4 is not a bad score. Of course, it's not. Damilare. It's 70%, in my opinion, is not an A. Okay, a lot of people consider, even in the universities, if you score 70, it's an A. Personally, it is not. But again, it's not my own opinion, and it's not your opinion. You, as a department, you sit down and shape what is excellent for you. What is our what's our threshold? What's the benchmark for us? Okay, so out of a performance scale of 10, what do you need to score to say that you are a high-performing employee? Is it 7? Is it 8? Is it anything above 8? I've worked in an organization whereby for you to be categorized as a high-performing employee, your performance must be 90% and above. 90% and above to be considered as an exceptional talent. Okay, so it's absolutely necessary that you as a department would shape that particular narrative on what you want to get from your company. Okay, now let's move on to question number 2. We've answered question number 1, done and dusted. We've seen that LinkedIn gives us the best talent. All right. We've also seen that the project manager role, the marketing manager, content writer are the roles that we need to focus on if we're going to hire from LinkedIn. So let's look at the second question, which is pretty similar to question number 1. Okay, which university produces the best performing employee? So similar to what we did the first time, this time around, rather than using the source of hire, we want to see their alma mater, their universities, where did they graduate from? And you would have seen this for those who are, if you're not even in HR, you would have noticed that there are some organizations that would focus on specific university graduates because that particular university has done very well in producing exceptional, candidates for hire. So, and how did that company come up with that policy? Okay, and this is how they come up with some of them. Of course, it's good to have a diverse pool, but it's also good to have a focus and a direction and even know what is going on within the company by gathering data and analyzing that data to take key decisions. So let's answer question 2 very, very fast, okay? So the first question, we focused on using the pivot table, where we created the pivot table ourselves from scratch from these data sets. But this time around, I want Excel to do it for me, okay? I want to see the performance. I have the performance score over here, right? And I want to then go ahead and focus on the alma mater, which is the universities where these candidates graduated from, or where these employees graduated from, the alma mater. So show me performance based on the alma mater. That's what I want to see. But I want to give the work to Excel. I don't want to do it myself this time around, okay? So all I'll simply do And before I do this, I want to also mention that this particular feature is not available on all Excel versions. All right, it's not available on all Excel versions. So if you don't find it, don't fret. It's likely that you don't have it on your own version. I think from Excel 2019 and above, you'd find this feature at the right-hand side called Analyze Data. Analyze Data. So at the right-hand side, you'd find Analyze Data, and it's simply an AI embedded feature on Excel where you can give Excel questions and it will do the analysis for you. So all those steps we took, click on your data, go to insert a pivot table, open in a new tab, or click on this, drag, and you're not going to do all of that work because Excel can do it for you. Okay. So we're going to use this feature. It's an AI embedded feature on Excel to help us answer that particular question number 2. So I'm just going to click on Analyze Data. And when you click on Analyze Data, what happens? At the right-hand side, you'd see the Analyze Data pane. Okay? And it's telling you that what? Ask a question about your data. So I can just click in here and ask any question. But I really don't want to ask a question. What do I want? I want Excel to show me the performance by alma mater. That's the performance by the previous university. So I'll just type that in. Performance score by alma mater. Simple. Okay, so it will give you suggestions when you're typing. You can click on the suggestions just so that you have the right spellings and all of that. But you can see that performance score by alma mater. And then I can click on this arrow to submit, or I can hit the enter key on my keyboard. And if I click on that, Excel will do the work for me 100%. I don't need to stress myself because we don't like stress. As analysts, you don't like stress. You control your time, you work efficiently, you get the job done fast and make your money. All right. So performance score by alma mater. And it has given me something, a pivot chart. And I'm simply going to insert the pivot charts to see if this is what I want. Okay. So I'll click on insert pivot chart, and this would insert a new pivot chart for me. But does this look familiar to you? Let's close this. Let's expand this to make it larger so you can see it better. Does this look familiar? We created this ourselves the first time. The table, we had to create the charts. But this time around, Excel has done it for us. We didn't have to do it ourselves. And that's the beauty of understanding how to leverage and utilize the power of Excel. Okay, so again, I don't want all these decimal places. So I'm going to select the numbers, and from my home tab, I'll decrease decimal to just 1 decimal place. All right, just 1 decimal place. And then let's add the decimal to the bars. Okay, so we have a bar chart over here created for us by Excel. I didn't need to stress myself. Right click on any of the bars and select add data labels. Okay, so I have my data labels, not very clear, obviously, but I'm going to make it bigger and bolder so you can see what I have. So I click on the data label and I go to my home tab, click on bold. Okay, and then I'm going to increase the font size. Click on this to increase the font size, and I just need you to see the numbers, okay, clearly. So I've increased the font size. Again, remember the principle of less is more. Whatever is not necessary, take it out. Now, because I've inserted my data labels, I don't need this particular axis that has the number. These numbers here at the bottom on the x-axis is simply to help you trace the bars with the number to see, okay, this bar falls in between 6 and 7, so it is likely 6.7. But now that you have your data labels, this becomes redundant. So click on it, hit the backspace, take it out. You don't need it. Same with these vertical grid lines. You don't need the grid lines anymore because you have taken out the axis. Click on the grid lines, hit the backspace, take it out. Make your chart as clean and neat as possible. The principle of less is more. Okay, so I want somebody, Rebecca told us the other time, the university, the alma mater that gives us the best performing employees. We saw that LinkedIn gives us the best channel, but looking at the alma mater, the universities, tell us which of the universities gives us the best performing employees. You can either type, but I'll prefer if you'd love to speak, unmute yourself. Let's get to hear from you. Okay, of course, it's very clear, very evident. Olufolake says Oxford. Austin says Oxford. TK says Oxford. Absolutely. It's very, very obvious. You can see. But the difference now is, okay, let's hear from Ruth. Ruth has a hand up. So Ruth, let's hear from you. So which of the universities gives us the best performing employees?
Oxford University.
So let me ask you this second question. If you're going to hire from just 2 universities, based on this analysis, which of the 2 universities would you select?
University of Michigan and Oxford University.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Ruth. Yeah, so this is Ruth giving us her suggestions and also telling us exactly where she would be hiring from based on this analysis. And it's very obvious. Oxford has, Oxford has 7.7 and Michigan has 7.1. So if I'm hiring, I can always go there. And I showed you how to, drill down into any of these areas. For example, which of the roles, you can find out which of the roles comes from Oxford, okay? And which of the roles comes from University of Michigan. So you can focus on those specific roles, all right? I showed you from the first question. So when you're practicing, explore the data, torture the data, like I said, so that it gives you and confesses, to you, and you have all those insights at the tip of your finger. Okay, so that's question number 2. We're going to do question 3 and 4 in the next 2 minutes. Question 3 wants us to determine the previous employees that perform the best. Okay, so we've seen the university. Now we want to see the previous employer. And the last question would be to find out the source of hire that gives us the most loyal employees. So the most loyal are simply the employees that have stayed the longest. So looking at the tenure, how long have they stayed? Have they stayed for 2 years, for 3 years? Maybe people that come through our websites only decide to stay for 1 year. Like I said, other factors could also play into this, but we are simply seeing how we can leverage data to answer key questions for a company that has those questions, those burning questions, all right? And we're using Excel to answer these questions. So question number 3, previous employer and the performance. So it's the same technique we have been using, okay? The same technique. The difference now is rather than having the alma mater, we want to see the previous employer. Okay, so we can either build it from scratch or we can simply copy what already exists. And I'll show you. So I showed you how to click on insert, click on pivot table, create the pivot table, and I'll show you, I'll do it again one more time for question number 4. But because you want to be efficient, efficiency is very, very important. You want to get the best results, which means you are effective. And you want to do that in the shortest time possible, which means you are efficient. So I'm just simply going to copy this particular table. Copy, Control C. Okay, open a new sheet, and I'll paste Control V. All right, so what have I done? I copied the pivot table that I used for the alma mater and the performance. And I want to use it to answer question number 3 for what? Employees' previous place of work. Okay, so all I'll simply do is I need to take out this alma mater from here and replace it. So I need to bring back my pivot table field that usually appears at the right-hand side. Okay, it has disappeared because I closed it. So let's bring it back very quickly. So I go to pivot table analyze at the top of my Excel, pivot table analyze. I click on that, and at the right-hand side, you'd see the pivots, the fields, the field lists. You click on the field list, and the moment you click on field list, you'd see the pivot table field appear again. Okay, some people would close it and become very worried that they don't know where it has gone to. I can't bring it back, and then they are worried. Okay, so no worries, don't fret whenever this happens. All you have to do is ensure you click on your pivot table, go to pivot table analyze, and at the extreme right-hand side, click on field list. If I deselect field list, it disappears again. If I click on field list, it comes back. Okay, so I don't want alma mater. I want to put what? Previous employer. So I'll deselect the alma mater, click on it to deselect, and then I'll select what? Previous employer. And that's all. Okay, so I created one pivot table, and I simply just copied, pasted, removed the alma mater, and selected the previous employer. And now I can see the previous employer and the performance score. Okay, so I'm going to create another visual so we can visualize. So I'm going to click on insert as usual, recommended chart. Okay, it's also giving me a column chart. Click on OK. It gives me this column chart, and I'll be faster now because I've explained. I'll close this. Let's make it a little bit bigger so we can see what we are doing. All right. I would insert my data labels on top. So right click, add data labels. I want to take out these field buttons. Right click, hide all field buttons. Okay. I want to take out this axis. Click on the axis and then hit the backspace to take it out. I want to take out the grid line. Click on the grid line, hit the backspace key, take it out. I want to take out this legend. Click on the legend, hit the backspace to take it out. Okay, so you have a very clean looking chart. Now it goes up and down, up and down. You really want to make it easy. All right, so you want to sort. So I go back to my table, right click, and I'll sort it from what? Largest to smallest. And now I can see where our talents come from, the previous employers. So our best performing employees come from where? Type it into the chart. The best performing employees come from where? And the least performing. So let's type the first two, the best performing. Where do they come from? Just type it into the chart. Where do they come from? Deloitte. Thank you very much. Okechukwu, Olufalake, Deloitte and Amazon. Absolutely. Is it Deloitte? Okay, yes, Deloitte and Amazon. Best performing and worst performing. Thanks for that, Olufalake. Okay. Best is Deloitte. Tasha, thank you very much. Best is Deloitte. Okay. And the least performing, Tasha also says, is who? Amazon. And that's very evident from what we've done. So, sorry. So you can see that the best performing is Deloitte and the worst performing is Amazon. Okay, so again, you can drill down to see where these the particular roles, you can drill down to see the particular roles. If I'm going to hire from Deloitte, Deloitte is not a tech company. Our company is a tech company. So who are the employees that come from Deloitte that performs very well? So we can check. So let's quickly do that 1 second, and then we'll answer the last question. We go to the slide and start to wrap up. Okay, so just like we did for the very first chart we created, or pivot table, I'll filter to select only Deloitte. So I click on the filter button, I deselect everything, and I select only Deloitte. Remember, I said there are different ways of doing this, fancier ways of doing this, more technical ways, but I'm just doing this to make it faster and getting the job done. It does the same work, but you have different ways of getting this done. Click on OK. It shows me only Deloitte. And now I want to see. Deloitte is not a tech company. Deloitte is a professional services company. So who are the employees coming from Deloitte? So click on my pivot table. I need to bring up my field list again. I go to pivot table analyze. All right. Click on field list. And then I take the position/role drag it and drop it under previous employer. Okay, so it changes my chart for me. Close this. Okay, let's bring this down a little bit. Or let's reduce the size, sorry. Okay, let's reduce. I need you to see everything I'm doing. Okay, so now we can see, and let's sort it so that it's easier for us, easy on the eyes. So I right click on any of the, oh, sorry, still selecting my chart. What's going on? Oh, Excel is giving me, I'm having a glitch. Okay. Okay, so let's get this done. All right, so I'm just going to right click on this and I'll sort largest to smallest. Okay, largest to smallest. So interestingly, looking at the roles for the employees that come from Deloitte, we can see that it aligns with that very first one with LinkedIn. Okay, let's go back to the very first thing we created. You can see the LinkedIn performance, people that came from LinkedIn, project manager, marketing manager, content writer. Okay, but from LinkedIn, data scientist seems to have one of the lowest performance. All right, let's take note of this. You can see the data science role from LinkedIn seems to have one of the lowest performance. However, looking at the last visual we just created, we can see that from Deloitte, data scientist seems to be the highest performing. So we can also find out these data scientists, where did we recruit them from? Yes, they're from Deloitte, but which channel? So now we know that if we are hiring data scientists, we want to look at companies like Deloitte giving us the best employees. Again, where are they coming from? Where are they coming from? LinkedIn has the least performing. So and these are the questions that come up when you do analysis like this, okay? So you drill down a little bit better. Remember, you torture the data, you get more insights. Let's answer the last one very, very quickly. I go back to the data set, and this takes us back to the way we created the very first one. Go back to the data set, click on Insert, go to Pivot Table, click on Pivot Table, and create your pivot table from a range, table/range. Click on that. Okay, ensure that New Worksheet is selected and click on OK. And this opens up a new sheet for you. This time around, we want to see the loyal employees, all right, and where they come from, the source of hire. So I'm going to click on my source of hire, and I'll look at the tenure. Okay, that's how long they have stayed. So I go to tenure, click on tenure, and of course, as usual, it gives me the sum. But we don't need the sum. We want to see the average. So for those who come through the campus recruitment, what's the average tenure we're likely going to get? So imagine you have 10 years data. You have data for 8 years, 10 years, 15 years. That's a gold mine for extracting valuable insights. So all I need to do is right click on any of these numbers and I'll go to summarize by average. Okay, so it gives me the average, pretty much similar. I'll select this, go to the home tab. I want to reduce the decimal places. So I have just one decimal place. Okay, one decimal place or two, depending on what exactly you want to see. Okay, I'm also going to sort it from the largest to the smallest. So I'll right click again, go to sort largest to smallest. And again, we can see, let's create our visual very quickly. Click on it, go to insert, click on recommended charts. It's going to recommend a column charts, definitely. Okay, but you can select the type of chart you want from here, a line chart, a bar chart, and so on and so forth, all right? But when you're comparing, column charts are good for comparing because you can see one very long, the other one very short. So it's easy for you to see where you have differences for the basis of comparison. So I click on OK, it gives me this. I can do all my formatting just like I have shown you, all right? But what can I see here? LinkedIn seems to also have the most loyal employees. The employees that would stay the longest come from LinkedIn. So best performing comes from LinkedIn. The most loyal comes from LinkedIn. And we've also seen the alma mater. We've seen where we get these talents from. Now, putting this together in the form of a dashboard. We don't have enough time to do that. But putting this together in the form of a dashboard and writing your reports to either your director, your line manager, it's easy to then see that this is the strategy we need to deploy going forward. Yes, we need a diverse pool. We're not going to focus on only employees from a particular section, a particular region, but we need to redefine and tailor our strategy to specific areas. We want to focus on LinkedIn for specific roles. We want to do this, we want to do that, but not based on assumption, but based on what? Analysis and insights you have been able to generate. Remember, I have inscribed on my shirt, data is the new oil, but oil itself is useless until it is refined. You get different derivatives from oil, and eventually it becomes useful for you to do the things, power your generators, power your cars. You have diesel cars, petrol cars, and so on and so forth. And that's the way data is. Data is useless on the face value or at face value until you are able to analyze that data using different data analytic tools. And the power of analyzing data related to people, how you hire people, how you manage people, how you retain people, how you train people, their performance, this is where the HR analyst comes in, okay? And this takes us back to our slides. We've answered all the questions from number 1 to number 4. We've seen where the best employees come from. We've seen the roles for that particular channel. We've seen the university, Oxford, and University of Michigan, that produces the best employees. We've seen the previous employer, Deloitte, seems to have the best performing employees. And we've also seen the source of hire that has the most loyal employees. That's the employees that stay for very long at the company, and that's LinkedIn. So these can help us redefine our talent sourcing strategy. And like I said, that's the power of the HR analyst. The HR analyst does all this crunching and comes in with recommendations. This is what we need to do. And if you look at the best performing organizations across the globe, irrespective in Africa, in the US, and the UK, the best performing companies deploys data-driven HR analytics. Okay, they don't just come up with assumptions. They don't assume why people are leaving. They know why they are leaving. And I always tell people this, rather than having exit interviews, would it not be beautiful, rather than having exit interviews, if you know the factors that are causing people to leave the company based on the analysis you've done. So when people are leaving, you have exit interviews, you gather data, you have their records over the years, you know the managers they have worked with, you know the different supervisors, you know the number of training they attended, you know how far their homes are from the office because you have their address, you have all these data. So it's easy to find patterns in your data sets for employees that have left the company. Do they fall within a particular age group? Can you find trends and patterns in the data? And if you can do that and find out the factors that lead to employees leaving, you can have things we call stay interviews. Okay, so once you know the factors that lead to employees leaving, you can then identify the employees that are at risk of leaving. And you have stay interviews with them to address those issues. And rather than, those employees leaving, they tend to stay a lot longer. And that's HR in motion, the ability to use data to provide recommendations. And that's what we've just done today, using a tool like Excel. I'm sure a lot of you have used Excel before, but as a HR analyst, you use Excel in a way that you have never used it before. So when they ask you, who is the HR analyst? Who is the HR analytics professional? That's that person that is responsible for analyzing HR or people-related data, extracting insights, and providing recommendation to drive HR strategies and processes. Okay, so what did we do? We simply took data that looks like this and we eventually you're going to convert it into a dashboard that looks like this, but we don't have enough time. Would have created something that looks like this. Okay, and this dashboard you see over here is a combination of all the charts we created. You can see average performance score by source of hire. Let me make this bolder so you can see it, okay? So average performance score by source of hire, average tenure by source of hire, average performance score by previous employer, average score by alma mater. These are the analysis we did today. So bringing them together, all those different charts, and putting them in a way that at a glance you can see what is going on and what is happening. This is a dashboard from the same exact data that we just worked with. And that's the power of the HR analyst. You're going to build things like this to help the company take key decisions. Okay, you can see your trend of employment, all right? So in 2023, employment has reduced. You've hired fewer people compared to 22, compared to 2021. Of course, recruitment and hiring in 2021 was at an all-time high because of the COVID lockdown and so on. And organizations saw the need to have more hands on deck to get them out of the whole effect of the COVID on their business. So like I said, why do you get into HR analytics and how do you get these skills to help you transition? There are reasons why HR analytics falls under one of the most and the highest in demand roles. And that's because number one, there is ease of learning. And this forms one of the three criteria that we look at analytics before we select a program, a course that you can learn and get a job. So it must be easy for you to learn. You understand the foundation, the fundamentals. You don't need to have experience as a HR professional. But if you're a HR professional, you definitely would get the best value possible because all you'll be doing is seeing things that you have been doing before without utilizing the power of data. But now you have learned the data analytics part of things and you can combine your HR functional experience with data analytics. So ease of learning. Number two, ease of transitioning and getting a job. And like I said, I'll show you a trick on how you can apply to get better outcomes during the job application process. Okay, so when you learn easily, when I say easy, it means you can learn this within the space of 3 to 4 months, learn all the skills that you need. You must also ensure that there is a market for you. You can apply to jobs and there are opportunities, and I'll show you so many numerous opportunities and other people who have gone through our programs and they've gotten value, getting jobs, sponsorship, working with some of the biggest companies across the globe in Canada, in the UK, and so on and so forth, all right? And lastly, high and rewarding salaries. So you've done all of these things, you've applied to jobs, you want to ensure that you can get very good remuneration at the end of the day, okay? So these are the key reasons why HR analytics falls into one of the career paths that you have to join, you have to get into in 2024, all right? So as a HR analyst, you have a diverse pool. And we'll see this when we get to job boards. I'll show you a diverse pool across the HR ecosystem of roles you can apply to. So you've completed the HR analytics program. It doesn't mean that the only job you can apply to is a HR analyst role. No, there is a new role. It's not really new, but it's an emerging role, very, very high in demand, called the HR data analyst. Okay, you have talent acquisition analyst, diversity and inclusion analyst, performance management analyst, HR analytics consultant, compensation analyst, workforce planning analyst, and there's so many of them. There was one, there's one particular role very popular today in the UK called the real-time analyst. Real-time analyst. And what do? They simply measure the performance on a day-to-day basis. So this is not performance that you look at the end of the quarter or you look at the end of the half year and you have your appraisal sessions and all of that. No, It is real-time analyst. You are looking at performance on a more regular and shorter intervals. And it's a new role that's becoming very, very popular in the UK today. So for those of you who want to search for this role, look for this too, real-time analyst. Very interesting. All right. So as a HR analyst, how do you get into the field? What do you need to learn? All right. First of all, like I mentioned, the salaries are great for somebody getting started as a HR analyst or a HR analytics professional. In the UK, the average salary is about £32,500. In Canada, about 71,000 Canadian dollars. And in the US, about 62,000 US dollars on the average per annum. And what are those skills that get you the job? Number one is problem solving. At the beginning, before we started solving any problem, we needed to come up with questions. So we had the questions already available on the slides. However, in the real world, nobody would come up with those questions for you. You are going to sit down and look at the problems that the company currently is facing at that point in time. You'd sit down with colleagues, your experts, and other stakeholders within the business to come up with those questions or potential questions that could give you the answers that you want. And that is done using problem-solving techniques, getting to the root cause of a problem, using different techniques like the 5 whys to get to the root cause, breaking problems into different parts, using techniques like the McKinsey-Mason model, prioritization matrix, knowing how to prioritize different activities, which is important, which is not important, important and urgent, and so on and so forth. All right, you learn all those techniques, and then you move into Excel. What we've done with Excel is, I would say, just bread and butter. Okay, that's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And I'm sure by the end of today, anybody who gets this data set can replicate all the things I've done, even if you have never touched Excel before. And that's the beauty of how you learn Excel. Okay, so you learn Excel starting from the foundation. First of all, you start by learning the Excel environment. What is the home tab? Insert. What is this? So all those things, when you click on it, what happens? That's how your first Excel class is. All right, and then you move to Power BI. Power BI is another fantastic tool that helps you analyze large amounts of data, more than what Excel would do, and also help you visualize that data using different data visualization features and techniques. All right, also more than Excel would give to you. So Power BI gives you an amazing platform to visualize your data and automate the process of visualizing that data. So imagine you have a report like the one I showed you, a talent sourcing report that maybe you present it every week or bi-weekly. You don't want to have to create that report every single week. You want to create it once, and you can always update it on the go without creating it over and over again. So the more you have data, the more that dashboard gets updated. And that's how you automate the process using tools like Power BI. Then you move to SQL, structured query language. And this is where anybody who works with data cannot run away from SQL. SQL is the language you use to interact with databases. A database is like a bucket. Just look at it like as a bucket. Okay, and what is inside that bucket? Data. Databases are the buckets where companies store their data. So for you to get the data from that database, you need to understand the language to communicate with the database. And that language is SQL, structured query language. All right, anybody in data, as a data analyst, HR analyst, financial analyst, data engineer, data scientist, anything with data in front of it, you must understand SQL as long as you work with data. And then you move to HR analytics and performance evaluation. You'd learn different ways to analyze performance, evaluate the performance of the company vis-a-vis the performance of the employees, and so on and so forth. You'd learn the HR metrics and life cycle, all right? Different metrics, absenteeism, attrition, and so on and so forth. You learn all those metrics to help you understand where the problems are, how the company can improve based on those metrics. HR analysis and dashboarding. You're going to build amazing dashboards. to visualize and show you insights that you can use to take decisions. You learn how to automate your reports. I talked about that using tools like Power BI, the Power BI service, and so on. They're going to build your case and create action. And this is where, as a HR professional, you learn to sell your story. You learn to talk about the analysis you've done, because what we've seen over the years are HR professionals that have never done this before. So now they've learned all of these skills. So how do they go back to their company and start implementing these skills? All right. And that's where we show you how to build your case, create action. And of course, last but not the least is what? ChatGPT for analytics. And you see those questions I had at the beginning. ChatGPT can help you come up with those questions. ChatGPT can think for you to make your work easier. All right. And we'll show you how to leverage ChatGPT as a data professional, because you can't run away from it. Organizations can't run away from it. That's the trend. That's what is going to happen. Companies today are looking for talents that have very good ChatGPT skills, understanding something called prompt engineering. Prompt engineering, which simply means, how do I write the best prompts to give me the best possible results? Remember, what you type into ChatGPT determines what comes out of ChatGPT. So how do you write the best possible prompts? The most effective prompts to get you the best response. Companies would hire you if you know how to use ChatGPT effectively, all right? So it's something we've embedded into the curriculum to ensure that whoever you are competing with, you stand out from the competition clearly, all right? And how long does it take? 4 months for you to learn to become a HR analytics professional. 3 months project-based classes and 1 month internship. So your classes are project-based, and I'll show you some of the projects for previous classes, ongoing classes, what they are working on, and what you would also be working on when you join the program. So 3 months, you are working on projects, absenteeism projects, talent management project, succession planning project, diversity and inclusion project, so that when you get into interviews at the end of the day, you haven't just learned by knowing how to use Excel. You have learned by solving problems for real-life companies. So what we've done is we've curated multiple years of experience from all our diverse facilitators and trainers, industry experts that have worked in HR analytics over the years. We've taken their experience, converted them into case studies, and you'll be learning using those case studies. So you are more or less reliving the experience of people who have gone ahead of you, all right? And for 1 month after your 3 months project-based classes, you are also working on an internship, working on projects in collaboration with within a cross-functional team, where you have a data analyst, you have a data scientist, and you work together to solve problems together. So this is what the program looks like, and this is how you would learn. And Nema, you get the data set is on my slide. Okay, so the link to the data is on the slide. You would have access to it. Just ensure that you fill the attendance form. So you receive the recording, receive the slides, you have the link on the slides. Okay, so let's move on. And of course, this is the breakdown of all the things you would learn. Okay, I talked about problem solving, the 5 why techniques, the CRISP-DM framework, the McKinsey-Macy model, the prioritization matrix, and so on and so forth. You learn Excel, starting with introduction to Excel. So it doesn't matter if you've never used Excel before, you are starting from the very basic and the very foundation. You learn Power BI, you learn SQL, and then you move into the HR aspect of the program. So HR analytics is simply a combination of what? Data analytics. Data analytics plus HR. That's HR analytics. Data analytics plus HR. So you have the HR perspective to things. You are very comfortable. You are very comfortable working with people-related data using data analytic tools and techniques. All right. Like I mentioned, the program is for 4 months, and that's your learning roadmap. 3 months project-based classes. At the end of your class, you have a capstone project to assess all the skills you have gained in class, and then you have 1 month internship. Okay, your class happens on Saturdays. You have a live class on Saturday with a professional who would work with you in solving all these case studies and all these problems. In the morning, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. every Saturdays, you have your classes 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. In the evening, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. For those in the US or Canada, and you cannot join the earlier classes, you have opportunities to join the classes in the evening. In the evening. So let's imagine I'm in the UK or I'm somewhere in Europe. The time zones are similar. So I can join a class that starts at 11. But imagine somebody in Edmonton, Canada, 8 hours behind, or 8 hours behind, 9 hours behind the UK. So imagine joining this class. It's almost impossible. So it means you'll be joining the class at around 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. your time. So you have another class that happens 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. West African time, and that suits people who are in Canada, who are in the US, and it's easy for you to find something that fits into your schedule. On Sundays, you don't have a live class. You have something we call the Watch Me Do It. So it's a flexible way of learning. On Saturdays, you're in class for 3 hours, working on projects with your trainer, your facilitator. You have the opportunity to ask questions and you get things done. On Sundays, at your own pace, you watch your bite-sized videos, you learn concepts that you can learn on your own without having to be in a live class. Okay, so you do that ahead of the next class the following Saturday. And some of the projects you're going to work on, you have employee management projects where you're going to help this particular company solve problems that they have related to their people issues, employee attrition for IBM. You're going to help IBM solve attrition issues, employees leaving the company. How do you reduce that? So you have to first of all identify the factors that have been leading employees to leave the company, and you use that to identify other employees that are likely going to leave and how to stop them from leaving. You'd look at absenteeism. Absenteeism is one of the major reasons why companies don't succeed or achieve major milestones, because employees are not doing what they should do, either working remotely or missing work by not coming to the office. So you work on an absenteeism project. You'd also work on a talent sourcing project, similar to the type of data set we've worked on today. You'd work on an employee analytics project. You work on this particular case study. You'd solve this SQL case study as well, student performance analysis, and so many projects, Redux Airlines. So because you are doing HR analytics doesn't mean you'd only work on a particular sector or only on people-related data. You test your hands on other things as well. And you have amazing projects that eventually forms your experience. Because these projects, like I mentioned, this aviation project, for example, the Redux Airline, it's a real company, a real airline in the US. One of our facilitators worked in that company as a HR analytics professional, came up with a case with his experience. We changed the data set to ensure that you can't trace this to any particular company because of data privacy issues. So you're going to have this on your CV. When you're asked the question, how have you helped a company solve a problem? All right, you can start to talk about all the different projects you have worked on. And you're going to say that from the point of knowledge, from the point of having done that particular project, and not just something that you watched, but something that you actually did. So you're going to work on numerous projects. Danny, Sons and Electronics. You have your SQL classes are also project-based when you learn how to use SQL. For Lewis Office Stationaries and Doors, you're going to work on all these amazing projects. Texas Electronics, and you work on a total of 25 projects before you wrap up your program with us. So what makes Analytics absolutely amazing, and how do you get jobs? How do we prepare you for the job markets? We do this in a 3-layered approach. The first level is where we help you with your CV. A lot of people have terrible CVs. And I'm saying this from experience. Terrible in the sense that it doesn't capture the essence of who you are and the type of job you want to get. Your CV must represent you better than your real self. So if I pick up your CV, can it pass the ATS? Okay, the applicant tracking system, which is what a whole lot of companies use today. We did I asked a question yesterday in one of the master classes we had. A company had one of the requirements as Postgres. Okay, they needed somebody that knew how to use Postgres. This was the job vacancy. And on the person's CV, it said PostgreSQL. Okay, one is Postgres, the other one is PostgreSQL. So my question to you is, are they the same? All right. So if I'm applying to a job and the job wants me to have Postgre, and it's the same, I'm telling you from the perspective of knowing the tool. It's a database management tool. PostgreSQL are the same thing. But when you apply to this job that requires Postgres, but on your CV you have PostgreSQL, my question in the chat is, would this represent, are you likely going to be called for an interview? If it's based on understanding of these two, are you likely going to be called for an interview? Are you likely going to be called for an interview? I want to hear from you. Are they the same, PostgreSQL? If you have PostgreSQL on your CV and the job wants Postgres, does that match? Are you going to get called for this particular role by having that on your CV? Tasha says no. I want to get more feedback. I want to hear what you think, because this is very important when it comes to CV. So you see the job requirement, you see what they want, but because you are very familiar with a particular way of writing a tool, you tend to write it the way you feel you should write it. No, you're not going to get called. Tasha says no. Abagu says no. So if we actually tested it using JobScan, and JobScan simply told us categorically that Postgre is not the same as PostgreSQL, even though I know it's the same, but it's not a human being that would read your CV. It is an ATS, applicant tracking system. Just like the same way, Excel is different from Microsoft Excel. They are totally different. So, and this is where writing your CV becomes very important. How do you tailor your CV to job applications? Okay, for some ATS, if they require you to have Microsoft Excel and what you have on your CV is just Excel, it's not going to pick it as one of the skills or one of the tools that you have. It will take it out of the whole pack, and you're likely not going to get called for an interview. So all of these little mistakes are the reasons why a lot of people don't get called for interviews. And these are the things we're going to point out and show you how to create a fantastic CV and how to do job matching and tailoring your CV to every single job application. And then we move on to LinkedIn. I'll show you a lady who lost a job. She didn't lose the job. She didn't get the job because of her LinkedIn profile. Luckily for her, she corrected it and was able to get the job, a different job, but in that same company. I'll tell you what she did differently, okay? And that's the power of LinkedIn optimization. So your LinkedIn must represent who you say you are on your CV. You can't want to be a HR analytics professional and you don't talk about HR analytics. There is nothing that points to you being a HR analytics professional, all right? And this is where learning in public becomes very important. People need to know. When it comes to HR analytics, I can go to this particular candidate because she speaks and she talks, she writes about HR analytics. So we're going to work on your LinkedIn for you. If you don't have a LinkedIn profile, we show you how to create one. Upwork optimization, this is where you work as a freelancer on different projects, navigating the job market, understanding the nuances in the different markets where you are. irrespective. You're in the UK, you're in Canada, in the US, in Nigeria, in Africa, in Ghana. How do you access opportunities in those areas? Job and interview preparation. You have an interview, how do you prepare? So even HR professionals need to prepare for potential interviews, knowing what to say, knowing how to introduce yourself, knowing how to sell your stories and sell yourself as a professional. And of course, references and recommendations. We provide that for you as well, because all the things you do are the same things, the same skills and techniques, the same tools you would use when you get a job within the space. So we write a reference to vouch for you for the skills you have deployed and you have used these tools, and that gets you into the job eventually. Level 2 is where you have your weekly mentorship sessions, because you need a mentor. For those of you transitioning from a different career path to HR analytics, or you are HR professionals and then you want to add this to your toolkit, you need the weekly mentorship sessions that prepares you for the job ahead. So you have industry experts that comes to speak to you, you ask questions, and you have that safe environment of asking questions, no matter how tough those questions are. And you have people that have done it, they've gone ahead of you, so they can provide you with not just answers, but practical answers to getting those problems resolved. On the job support. So you get a job, you need 1 or 2 help solving problems, okay? Getting your feet solid on the ground. Some people get jobs and they get, the jitters, they get scared that, oh, I'm not sure I can do this. So they know that they have Tenalytics. Tenalytics got their back to help them anytime they have a challenge. And of course, we are also aware of data privacy issues. So we know we have systems in place to ensure that we don't breach and we don't let you breach any data privacy issue in your organization. And the last thing we have, which is a level 3, we are deploying this. We started deploying this in January 2024, this year, is our promise to you. Guaranteed interview 1 month after completing your program. So with all the things we're going to put in place, by the time you are done, the maximum is 1 month after you're done, you start to get interviews. You start to get called for interviews, and we're going to work with you during those interviews. And like I tell people, whenever you have an interview, you have a 50-50 chance of getting that job, because they like you. That's why they have said they want to talk to you. So all you have to do is prepare and go sell yourself. So these are the 3 layers that has made us successful for about 4 years now that we've been in business. We have deployed these strategies, helping numerous people. Between last year and 2022, we helped over 2,000 people, over 1,000 people. Last year alone in 2023, we helped over 850 people, making it close to 2,000 people we've helped to transition and get their first jobs within the tech ecosystem. It's a proven strategy, it works, and this is where we do our best work, okay? And of course, there are numerous success stories, and I would love you to listen to a couple of them. One of them is Sonia. I was telling you about the lady who, she almost lost a job because of her LinkedIn, and I'll tell you what she did. I'll go to her LinkedIn profile and I'll show you, all right? So Sonia moved to the UK in 2022 for her master's, completed her master's in 2023. But before she left Nigeria, she reached out to us and we had a conversation. And I told her that, look, Sonia, you're not going to get the skills you need to get a job by going for a master's program in the UK. You're not going to get that. Take it from me. I'm very familiar with the system. MSc, master's program, you don't learn the skills to get that will get you solving problems in any company when you're done. So you need to get the practical skills as a HR professional. All right. Sonia joined the HR analytics program and she was doing that concurrently with her master's. Immediately she was done with her master's program, she landed a job. When she got the interview, request, she reached out and we helped her. We worked with her to prepare her for the interview. She got a job as a HR analyst, and I'll show you what she did, how, because of listing Tenalytics on her LinkedIn profile, she was able to get the job. Okay, so I'll show you that by going to our profile first of all. So let's take a peep into Sonia's profile very quickly. And this is one of the strategies I always advise people to deploy. Okay, always deploy this strategy. So let's go to Sonia very quickly. So when you go to Sonia's profile, one of the things you would see is you both worked at Tenalytics, and this is what we tell our participants to do every single time, which is what? HR analyst. Okay, so Sonia was able to get this job, and you can see that she got the job very early late last year, November. And how was she able to do this? By listing Tenalytics on her profile. Now, let me tell you what happened. She went for the first interview and she did very well. The day before she received, unfortunately, we're not going to hire you, she noticed that somebody came to her profile, and that person was the recruitment manager. You know, just the way I have checked Sonia's profile, she's also going to know there's a way LinkedIn would show you number of people that viewed your profile, okay? And you can check to see who viewed your profile. So she saw that the recruitment manager viewed her profile, and the day after, she got an email that said she wasn't going to get the job. What happened? She did not list Tenalytics. Sorry, I clicked on something. She did not list Tenalytics as one of her experience as a HR analyst. And they were looking for somebody who knew how to use Excel, who knew how to use Power BI, who knew how to use SQL. Okay, that was what they were looking. That was the candidate they were looking for. And there was nothing on her LinkedIn that showed that. And the moment she indicated it, that same company happened to have another role that was opened. And because they had recruited, she had gone through the interviewing process, the recruitment process. She didn't have to do all of that. They just sent her an offer and she got the job by listing Tenalytics. And I got to find out because we had a conversation and she told me every single thing that happened. And that's what we always advise people to do. Never have a public persona that shows that you're not the person that wants to get into a particular role. You want to be a data analyst, you must show that you are a data analyst. You are doing things within the space. And that was how Sonia was able to land her job. Now, Victor, you'd love to hear from Victor. Victor joined us, and within 2 months into the program, before he completed, he got a job with Hugo in Chicago, Illinois, working as a people operations analyst. How did he do it? His entire assessment was on Excel. Okay, and I'll tell you what attracted Hugo to Victor. Now, Victor has left the position in Hugo. He now works as a senior HR business partner with Tangerine Africa. You'd love to listen to what Victor has to say. So when you receive the slide, click on this link and hear Victor out. But I would also go to Victor's profile and show you what made the difference for Victor. Okay, so that we are very practical. Victor Oyeshino. Okay, so we are very practical as to what helped these people succeed. Again, you would also find out that Victor had listed that he worked at Tenalytics. Absolutely important. You must do this to show that you have done this work before, you have the skills to actually get the job. So now, if you look at Victor also listing HR analyst with Tenalytics, what did he do after listing the skills? The dashboard he had created, he listed them. So let me click on one. So these were dashboards he created using Excel, and he posted them online, which is what we always advise our participants. Learn in public. Show people that are doing things within the space. So Victor did this, posted it online. They reached out to him, okay, as a people operations analyst. He was working remotely from Nigeria, working for a company in the US. All his assessment was Excel, 100%. And eventually he got the job. He did it for a while, and then he's currently working as a senior HR business partner. And these are the people that, we are very proud to tell their stories, because they started from positions where they didn't know how to use data to make sense. They didn't know how to use data analytics to make sense of the data that they always got. But they came into the program, they learned, and they started to do amazing stuff. And you have so many fantastic professionals. For the people joining us from Ghana, Sheila is a Ghanaian. She joined the program all the way from Ghana. We have so many fantastic professionals, and you would love to listen to these people. Okay, you would love to listen to them. Let's just quickly listen to one of them. Less than 1 minute. I think for Debola, I think Debola is less than a minute. I'm just going to click on Debola and let's listen to what she has to say very quickly for just 1 minute.
My experience with Tenant Analytics was amazing. I'd come to learn about the program through a friend who was doing a different course with them, and I'd raved about how amazing his course instructors were and how excited he was. And I decided to check out the website, and I found the HR analyst program, which piqued my interest, and I decided to go for it. During the duration of my program, I truly felt like I had great instructors who were truly knowledgeable, very supportive. They, did not mind explaining things over and over again and carried the entire classroom along, which I thought was really wonderful. I have developed new skill sets, in such a short amount of time, and I think this speaks to how amazing the instructors really were.
Okay, so let's listen to Debola very quickly.
Hi, my name is Adebola. Enrolling with Tenant Analytics was one of the best decisions I made. Their learning process is seamless, and they don't just leave you to yourself after you've learned. They take you by the hand to make sure that you actually put the skills you've learned into practice. I really appreciate Tenant Analytics for what they did for us. The value getting is way, way more than the money spent. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Okay, so that's Debola, amazing professionals. I'm not going to bore you with too many, testimonials. Even though we like to rave, we blow our trumpets every single time. All I want you to do is you have numerous testimonials. Go to YouTube, search for Tenant Analytics. Go to YouTube, search for Tenant Analytics. All right, it takes you to Tenant Analytics page. Okay, click on Tenant Analytics. All right, and when you go to Tenant Analytics, just simply look for where you have testimonials. And you have numerous testimonials, and you get to enjoy the fantastic stories of people that have made the switch, that made the transition. You'd hear from someone like Sade, who got a job as a data scientist in the UK, even though she had never done data for 1 day in her life. You'd hear from Michael, who got a job as a sales engineer after joining our data engineering. You'd hear from Idris at DBC, also a data engineer, worked with Jaguar Land Rover in the UK in Coventry after joining our data science program. So you get to listen to all these amazing professionals and how they were able to make the switch. Okay, fantastic people. And of course, you've gotten to hear from just 2 of them. You'd hear from Maureen as well. Maureen currently works with TELUS. For those in Canada, TELUS is one of the largest telecommunications company. She got a job as a HR data analyst. And like I mentioned earlier, this is one of the roles that is currently trending and very high in demand, the HR data analyst role. We worked with Maureen, we worked with Thelma, who got a job in the UK in Birmingham after joining our HR analytics program. And you have so many other professionals. Listen to how Ikmat was able to get a full-time job, visa sponsorship with the NHS. Listen to how Tosin was able to get a job as a fraud analyst, and so many fantastic people who have gone through the analytics system and they have done amazing stuff. Listen to Olubemi, who is in Canada as well, joining the program, how we worked with him to ensure that he was able to get this. And there are so many other people. And like I said, I'm not going to bore you with too many of them. You get the slides, get to listen to these professionals and how you can also join and extract amazing value. Our achievements in 2023, like I mentioned, and we have evidence. Like my co-founder always like to say, FMNA, evidence day. Just go to YouTube, watch all the amazing videos, and you get to see the transition story of so many people that have made the cuts. Okay, 850 plus people that we helped last year in 2023 to make the transition, getting their first jobs. All right, not people who have worked in tech before. No, from the classroom to getting their first jobs in tech. Over 850 people in 2023. And we did this through what? Up-to-date curriculum. All right. You would not see any other curriculum anywhere with ChatGPT embedded as one of the tools you'd learn as a HR analytics professional. All right. Hands-on experience where you have industry experts coming to walk you through all these concepts. Blended learning approach. You're not learning every single day. Not the conventional way of learning that is very boring. You are learning on Saturdays, working on projects. And that's where, for andragogy, adult education, you learn by doing, practicals, getting things done. And that's the fastest way you retain knowledge at the end of the day. And we deploy this across all our programs. The additional employability services, I talked about that already, from your CV to your interview to your LinkedIn and all of those things. That's where we do our best work. In fact, this is what has made us so successful over the last 4 years, and the reason why people come to us, because of how and the way we put you through, help you with your interviews, and even more importantly, the references. When these employers come to ask for a reference, because when you get a job, they want to know, is there anybody that can vouch for you, a reputable organization that can vouch for you? And that's where Tenalytics comes, does its best work eventually. Your internship, all the programs come with internship, where you get to work in a real life environment, working on projects, okay? You have the internship, which are going to add to your CV. 1 month, you're honing your skills, working on real life projects, collaborating, and so on and so forth. For the year 2024, we are adding the Body Mentorship Hub. So you see somebody like Victor, you see somebody like Debola, you see somebody like Maureen, you see Thelma, people that have gotten jobs. They've joined the program, they've gotten jobs across different regions. So you're in Canada, you're trying to get a job. You need somebody that can tell you, hey, this is what you need to do. You must stop doing this. So these are the alumni that come back to also form a support system around you and ensure that your transitioning becomes a lot easier. So you're not listening to only Adeza, you're not listening to only FMNA, you're also listening to your counterparts, okay, your contemporaries that can walk you through, certain areas based on your region, based on your program, and so on. We are also enhancing the internship experience. I talked about the cross-functional team, how you work together with different other professionals. And lastly, one other new initiative is the partnerships we are having with recruitment agencies. So when we say that you're going to have 1 month, after 1 month of your program, you're going to get interviews. Apart from all the things we're going to do for you with your CVs and all of that, we also have recruitment agencies we are partnering with. For example, Robert Half in Canada. So what's the partnership like? Very simple. As a Tenalytics alumni or a Tenalytics participant, you get to be in a pool, okay, a talent pool. Now, these agencies will then funnel you, okay? They funnel you through a pipeline to companies that requires your skills. Okay, so companies always hire these recruitment consultants and agencies to source for talents, and Tenalytics will be one of the pool of talents where they come to search for. Okay, and you can then get access to opportunities in that way. We are working with Hayes in the UK, Robert Half in Canada, Michael Page, and so on and so forth, to get these opportunities to your doorstep. The next cohort starts, this must be an error. It starts on the 3rd of February, not 6th of January. 3rd of February. The next cohort starts on the 3rd of February. Of course, the January cohort has started already. 6th of January, they are doing amazing stuff. And I'll show you the class and what the class looks like and what you'll be learning and what you also stand to gain. The next cohort starts on the 3rd of February, and we have an amazing discount for those who will be joining the February cohort. For the first 20 people that will be registering for the HR Analytics program, you get to enjoy an amazing discount. So rather than paying the full amount of $750, you get a whopping $150 discount, and you get to pay just $600. Instead of $750, you get to pay just $600, and you can make the payment in 2 installments of $450 and then $150 1 month after the program commences. So to get into class, you pay the first payment of $450, you receive a welcome kit, you join the classroom, and you are ready to start your journey on the 3rd of February. 1 month after the program commences, you then get to make the balance payment of $150. And of course, if you are paying in pounds, you have a £125 discount. Rather than paying $625, you get to pay £500. Okay, and you can break it into 375, first payment, second payment, 125. And if you're paying in Naira, you get a discounted fee where you get to pay 720K, 540 paying as the first payment, paid as the first payment, and the second payment is 180,000 1 month after the program must have commenced. And this includes everything that the program entails, from all the tools, the techniques, the skills you're going to learn, to all the additional employability services, your CV, your LinkedIn, your mentorship, and everything that prepares you to get a job at the end of the day. So all you have to do is take advantage of the discounts, latch in on the discount, and get your journey into tech started in 2024. The discount is not open to everybody. It's open to the first 20 people who gets to make payment to be a part of the program. All right. Remember, I said I was going to show you a trick on how to apply to jobs. I'm still going to show you before we wrap up, and I'll take questions. Okay. And I'll take questions before we call it a day. Now, how do you make payments if you want to be a part of the program? Very simple. All you have to do is click on this link over here. All right. You see the link over here is the Tenalytics enrollment page. And all you have to do is click on that link and it takes you into the enrollment center. All right, it takes you to the enrollment center. The enrollment center, you have access to all the brochures. You want to download the brochures, you have access to all the brochures in the enrollment page. And this is what the brochures look like. Okay. Just to also show you some of your facilitators, people that will be teaching and training you during the program. Okay, so you have Emmanuel. Emmanuel is the head of HR at Pedabo, one of the largest boutique HR firms in Nigeria. So he's worked and is currently one of the members of the World Innovation Summit in Doha, Qatar. He's worked as a culture driver, a change manager. He's an absolute professional within the space. You're also going to work with Joseph. Joseph is a HR business partner with IBM. He's going to be one of your facilitators to help you make the transition as well. You're also going to work with Mary, is a senior data associate at Tenalytics, over 5 years experience in data analytics. She's worked in the legislature, she's worked in marketing, and also has experience with not-for-profit organizations. She would help you understand how to utilize tools like Excel and Power BI. And of course, you'd also work with Olugbemi, who is a business data analyst with the Law Depot in Canada. He's going to help you with your SQL. He's going to help you with your Power BI as well. And these are some of the professionals. And also, you'd also work with Oladapo, who is a senior consultant with Deloitte in Bermuda. Oladapo would also work with you on Excel to help you understand the power that you have in Excel. And these are the professionals that you're going to work with during the program. Okay, so you have access to the brochures. Like I said, all you have to do is sorry, I'm just going to go back to, so you go to the enrollment page. Let's see. Okay, just give me 1 second. Let's reload the enrollment page, and I'll just show you how you can go ahead to make payments for those of you that want to make payments. And then I'm going to show you a trick when applying to jobs on LinkedIn. And what's the trick? It's not really a trick anyways, but it's a way to help you apply to the most recent jobs. Because sometimes you're applying to a job and then you find out that this job has been out there for 24 hours, for 2 days, 3 days, and you have so many people that have already applied. So most organizations do something we call first in, first out. Okay, so for those that submit early, they get their CV assessed, their application assessed, and you get invited for an interview. Okay, so this is taking a while to come up. Okay, we're just going to wait for it to come up. But just to show that you can make payments using different options. You want to make payments in Naira, you want to make payments in pounds, you want to make payments in dollars, you have the opportunity to do that. Okay, so this is just taking a while to come up. We'll wait for it and see if it comes up. All right, but also depending on your location, the reason why we use the link for you to make payment is so we can track the number of people, okay, that came through the masterclass. You can also go to the website to make payment from there, tenalytics.io. It takes you to the website. The only difference here is we can't tell if you're coming from the masterclass because the discount is meant for those who attend the masterclass, but you also have access to the brochures in here. If you click on the instructor-led classes, it takes you to where you have the programs, all right? And I can see the HR analytics. Click on that and you'd see the HR analytics program, okay? And all the things you're going to learn: problem solving, Power BI, ChatGPT, Excel, SQL, ChatGPT for analytics, HR analytics, and performance evaluation, and all the things you'd learn. And you can simply come here, click on download brochure, and this gives you access to the brochure. Okay, so you have access to the brochure and you can go through the different parts of the program, the nitty-gritty and the breakdown. Okay, let's see if this is not up yet. So I'm just going to leave it at this and I'll show you what I want to show you. If it comes up before we leave, I'll show you how to go ahead and make payments. It's pretty straightforward. You'd see the links on where you can click on if you want to make the full payment or the part payment. Okay, so while this is coming up, most of the time when you want to apply to jobs on LinkedIn, what happens? You go on LinkedIn, you go to search, you type in the job. So let's say HR analyst. Okay, you search for HR analyst, roles. And when it comes up, you click on what? Jobs. Okay, most of the time you do this. This is what you do most of the time. Okay, so you'd see different jobs. And like I said earlier, you can see reward analyst. So it's not necessarily going to be the HR analyst role. So you'd see so many other roles that would come up: reward analyst, HRIS analyst, people systems, real-time analyst. I talked about real-time analyst the other time, right? You'd see the real-time analyst. And these are people who analyze the performance, okay, so this is the role. As a real-time analyst, you will effectively manage the daily performance of IAGL. That's the company, that contact center. Okay, so you're analyzing the performance of the contact center. So it's a real-time thing. It's not a quarterly performance evaluation. It is a real-time evaluation, okay? And you can see the skills that you need. Excel skills, e.g. lookup, index match, pivot tables, and so on, okay? However, you would see roles that have been up for a very long time, and so many people have applied. If I click on compensation analyst, for example, over 100 people have applied to this job. So it means that I'm going to compete with about 100 people. And if their applications have already been assessed, it means mine would come later down the line. So how can I address this? Very simple. What I want you to do is go to Google and search. Okay, but when you're searching, type in sites, S-I-T-E with a semicolon. Okay, type in LinkedIn. Okay, linked. I typed it before, so that's why you see it come up. So type in linkedin.com/jobs. I'm going to drop it in the chat, so don't worry, /jobs. Now, you then type in the job role you are looking for, okay? And put it in between inverted commas. So HR, close the quotes, and analyst, also in between quotes. Okay, so HR analyst, let's assume that's the role we are trying to apply to. If you want it remote, you want to apply to a remote job or just search for a remote job, you can also add that to it and remote. Okay, so you can tailor it down a little bit more. Now, when you do this and you hit enter, what happens? It would show you different links for jobs available. HR roles in Nigeria, HR remote roles, and so on and so forth. HR analytics jobs in the US. Now, I don't want to just look for any particular job role. I want the ones that were recently updated, maybe over the last 1 hour, last 24 hours. So I know I'm applying to recent jobs. How do I filter? I go to tools, I click on tools, go to anytime, click on anytime, and either I select the past hour or the past 24 hours or the past week. I'm just going to select past 24 hours. And when you do this, you'd see only the jobs that have been posted over the last 24 hours. So this was posted 12 hours ago, all right? And for all these other jobs that you'd see, they were posted within the last 24 hours. This was posted 8 hours ago, 8 hours ago, 13 hours ago, and so on and so forth. Okay, so I can select any of these jobs, maybe right click on this. This is a process analyst role. Okay, HR process analyst. So it's more or less combining HR and business analysis. So I can check out this role, right click on it, open in a new tab. And rather than just focusing on so many jobs that I'm not sure of, I know that this was recently updated. And you can see 0 applicants. Nobody has applied. So if I apply, I stand a better chance at getting this job. So this is a very simple hack to help you get recent roles. Apply to those ones first of all, before you focus on the roles where you're going to compete with so many other people. So looking at this job, even though it was posted 11 hours ago by Michael Page. Michael Page happens to be one of the recruitment consultants we are partnering with. 0 applicants. Okay, and this is where you can go to the job, read about the job, see what they want from you. You can see adept with Microsoft applications, Word, Excel, and so on. Read about it and go ahead and apply. Okay, so this is a job absolutely amazing. You can access this, and this is one of the few hacks you can deploy to getting those opportunities. Okay. Let's see. I think there is something about the link. The link is not coming up. I think the site is down at the moment. So when it comes up, but my colleagues have also shared the details in the chat. All right, the links are on the charts. And for those who will be wanting to pay, doing a direct transfer using the pound option or doing a direct transfer using the Naira option, you have those options available. You can do a direct transfer to our Fidelity bank account. You can do a direct transfer to our UK bank account as well. And you have the links to take you to the enrollment page. All right. This will be fixed. I think it's just, it came up the other time, of course, but then I think something went down. You'll get the links in your email when you receive the recording and the slides. Not a problem at all. So I'll just go back to my slides. We'll take questions, and I'll take about 2-3 questions if you have any, and then we'll call it a day. Remember, the discount is not available to everybody. It's available to the first 20 people to register. Okay? The first 20 people to register. And I remember I promised I was going to show you some of the projects that you would work on when you join the program. So we have more testimonials. You listen to this gentleman who is a fashion designer, all right, but also transitioned into the tech ecosystem, joining our program. Aduke, also absolutely phenomenal professional. You have a lawyer, Timmy, who is a lawyer who transitioned. Also, you have Ramat, who got a job with the NHS, full visa sponsorship, Ikmat, and so many other professionals. Benga, who tried to get a job for 2 years in Poland, but couldn't, but we worked with him to help him get a job. So many professionals. Take out time to listen to their stories.
Where did they go?
Okay. I need to mute. Priscilla, are you trying to say something? Okay, so let's take questions. If you have questions, please feel free, send your questions into the chat, and I'll be very happy to take your questions. Okay, we got featured, our participants work in some of the best organizations across the globe. We got featured in so many publications. Take our time to read the articles, the interviews we held with the Punch newspaper, the hackathons we held over the last few years, helping Africans to land tech jobs across 4 continents. Also, another interview we did with the Business Day, PR Fire, reiterating our commitment in helping Africans get tech jobs in Europe. PR Fire is one of the largest publications, online publications across Europe, also in the UK. All right. The most recent, not the most recent now, one of the most recent, we had this in December, but we had one, that is more recent, which is the hackathon, where we bring in people to test their skills against their counterparts across the globe. So you see how well you can perform when you get to compete with other professionals. All right. So I'm going to take a pause at this point in time, and I'll show you the platform, and I'll be looking into the chat. If you have questions in there, I'll take questions from you, okay, from the client side. All right, so I think we'll just wait for this to come up, but let's see what the class looks like. So when you join a typical Tenalytics program, what does it look like? How do you learn? What are the different projects you're going to work on? So let's see what people who joined us in November, let's see what they are doing or what they've done. And for those that started in January, we also see what they've done. So you can see all the programs in here, the Scrum Master, the business analysis, HR analytics, data engineering, and so on and so forth. Okay. Now, this is the HR analytics that started in January. You can see 2401, but let's look at those that started in November because they've covered a whole lot more. Okay, so let's go to HR analytics. I'm going to open up this class and let's see how you're going to learn with us. Okay, so one of the first things you see when you get into your classroom is book an interview session. So whenever you have an interview, all you have to do is come to the platform, click on this link, okay, and then it takes you into a Calendly page. Now, this is a page where you select when you have an interview, all right? So a date is available on Monday. I click on Monday. I select the time that I want. So let's say time is I want to have my interview prep at 9:30. I click on 9:30, click on next, enter my name, enter my email. What is the name of the role you're applying for? I'm applying to a HR data analyst role. I fill that in, paste the job description. So I go copy the job description and I paste it here. Then share anything that will help prepare for our meeting. You paste all the details and then you click on schedule event. You receive a calendar invite into your email and somebody would sit down with you to help prepare you for your interview. And that's how you book your interview session. But let's look at some of the projects that they have done using Power BI. Okay, let's look at some of their projects. Okay, so let's see their SQL, all right, SQL. Let's see this case study, Danny and Sons. You can see it was one of the case studies I had on my slide as well, Danny and Sons Electronics. So you're going to use SQL as a HR analyst to work on this case study, okay, to help solve problems. So this is the data dictionary that contains the data, and then you have questions you're going to answer. All right, so that's one project on Danny and Son, is a SQL case study. And then of course, your class 1 is another project, a different project. Okay, so you have Danny and Sons for class 1 and class 2 because it's a very robust case study. All right, and if we go to Power BI, you have different other case studies where you are using your experience or your professional facilitators' experience to also build your own experience because you're working on the projects that they would have worked on. So I click on this, you'd see the Power BI case study for this particular class, okay? Unraveling the mystery of stolen vehicles in New Zealand. Amazing case study you're going to work on. So the beauty is you're not just working on case studies that are specific to one area. You are expanding and broadening your perspective across different other areas, okay? Power BI class 2, you have another case study on Ray Gadgets Technologies, where you're helping them solve problems too, using Power BI. And this is the approach of how you learn with us at Analytics, okay? And you have your mentorship sessions, you have your drop-in sessions. And your drop-in sessions are sessions whereby you have joined a class on a Saturday, but you really don't understand some things that were taught, okay? But the class is over. You sent a question to the chat. You've tried the things they have said you should do, but you still cannot get it. The drop-in sessions are then scheduled to ensure that during the week, you have somebody who will sit down with you to help you address those issues. And I'll show you one of the drop-in sessions. You see the drop-in session, okay? For all the classes, SQL drop-in session, Power BI presentations, Microsoft Excel presentations. So these are drop-in sessions to help you when you have issues that you need somebody to sit down with you and help you address, all right? So for Excel, you have drop-in sessions, 1, 2, 3, and then you have a presentation. This presentation, let's look at one of them. Okay, this presentation is where, as a professional, you have to start utilizing the skills you have learned. You need to know how to communicate your findings from the analysis you have done, from the data sets that you have. Okay, so we're going to look at this, leave it to load. And you have all your sessions recorded. So every single class you join, SQL Live Class 2, imagine you missed this particular class. You can always go back to watch the recording. Also, the mentorship sessions, every single session, you have the session recording. You can always go back. SQL Class 1, you have the class recording. So you don't miss anything eventually because you have the recording. You can watch the recording, look at the slides, go to the data set, download the data set, and do all the things that the facilitator addressed in class. And if you have questions, you have the opportunity to ask those questions in class, okay? So let's look at the presentation on Excel. So that's Priscilla. Priscilla is your coordinator for HR Analytics. So she's coordinating the session today. I'm sure you heard Priscilla when she started, okay? So let's go to where they presented, and I'll allow you to hear what they have to say, all right, how they presented. So let me take this back, and I would explain what the presentation is all about. So this is where you work together in a group, you solve problems, and then you come during the presentation to present your findings. So let's listen to this presentation very quickly.
Okay, so this is the dashboard of OptiSales Inc. or say Limited here. So as you can see from the dashboard, we have the OptiSales dashboard of 900 billion for sales and total profit. So let's all begin. So our presentation is in two parts. First part, we will analyze all the elements on the dashboard, and the second part, we shall make recommendations as regards of July and August charts.
Price policy. They should adopt a more liberal price policy. They should also deepen their partnership with retailers by offering incentives such as high commissions for product sales to motivate them increase their sales proportion. Then online sales.
Okay, so these are people, who have created stuff, and you can see that they are presenting and also making recommendations. So you would also do the same. So you improve your presentation skills, you improve how you are able to come up with solutions and communicate those solutions. All right. So these are some of the things you do. Can you make the dashboard bigger? It's a recording. It's a recording. I didn't get the price. I'll show you that, Olabumi. That's not a problem. And this would also be sent. What's the minimum to pay to secure your spot? So it depends on what currency you are paying. If you are paying in pounds, it's about 210 pounds to secure your slots. If you are paying in dollars, the minimum you can pay is about $250. And if you're paying in Naira, the minimum is 300,000 Naira to secure your slot. Unfortunately, the enrollment page, I'm not sure it's up yet. Okay, but like I mentioned, the link will be shared with everybody. You'd have access to the link and you can always go there to make payment. My colleagues have also shared the details. All right, I don't know if this is just from me, but I doubt it's my network that is making this slow. All right, my colleagues have also shared the account details for those who would want to do a direct transfer. So what the link does for you is you can make payments using Paystack, using your credit or debit card. You can pay using Mainstack, using your dollar card or your pound card or euros, Canadian dollars, depending on how you want to pay. All right. So you'd have that sent together with the recording, together with the slides as well. Okay. So we're going to call it, we're going to draw the curtains in here. Like I mentioned, if you have questions, I'll be very happy to take your questions. Adegoke Aderomo, I see you. Adegoke is an alumnus. And of course, I see you. Thanks for joining, Adegoke. All right. I'll be looking forward to having you join our program starting on the 3rd of February, 2024. Now, one other thing we advise people to do is you could have a colleague that you know can benefit from this. And we've had so many people that have done this before. They recommend this to their brothers, they recommend it to their, sisters, their friends, their colleagues, and eventually those people go ahead to get amazing benefits. For example, this gentleman, Uthman, he joined our program because his elder brother joined a session like this, sent the details to him, even made payment for him. Today, he works with the NHS in the UK as a business intelligence support officer. So follow us across all our platforms on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. Enjoy the amazing content we have for you available on those platforms. And if you ever have questions you would like to ask us, you want to reach out to us, feel free to send us an email on enquiries@10analytics.io, or you send us a message to any of these numbers, and one of our customer success associates will respond to you. Okay, so you can take a screenshot of this, although the slides would also be shared with you at the end of today's session. All right, if you've learned something today, you've had fun, you've enjoyed, you've learned something new and you had a wonderful time, just type in a yes into the chat. Just type in a yes into the chat. You've learned something new. Thanks, Busayo. You've learned something new today. Thanks, Abagu. I think Abagu said you're joining from Ghana. Thank you for being a part of our session this evening. All right, so for sessions like this, and this is the beauty why you need to follow 10 Analytics. We have free sessions where you get to join and you get to learn for free. All right, you also get to learn the best ways to approach the tech industry, how to get opportunities that exist. And that's what you get when you follow 10 Analytics. All right. So you might not be joining today, but whenever you decide to join, you remember that 10 Analytics is there to provide you with all the services that you need to get started within the tech ecosystem. So take advantage of the discounts. The first 20 people to register gets into the class, and would have all these sessions until the last week for when the program would start. Okay, so you also would see so many other people taking advantage and so many other people that have already made payments to join the program already. Okay, so thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the wonderful weekend ahead of you, And I look forward to seeing you join so many more other sessions that we would have, and also seeing you on the 3rd of February, 2024. All right. Thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the weekend and cheers.